This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place to tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I wasn't on yesterday, so I missed you, but we're back. I got my man Andy, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have some other people join us as we break down the second part of grading the players. The first episode was great. Took a little bit more time than expected because we spent like an hour on Julius Randle. I don't expect to spend an hour on any one player today, so we should be able to get through all of them. But before we get to it, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to remind you that on June the 23rd, we're having a draft party in Atlantic City. And I want to make sure that I could see you there. In the YouTube chat, I'm dropping a link right now where you can sign up to put your name on the list. I'm going to tag it and pin it to the top of the chat so it's there throughout the show. It's also in the description of the video. So make sure that you get your name on the list, ladies and gentlemen, so you can be one of the first people to register, purchase your ticket when it's available. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing popping, man. I know we're going to have a good show today, ladies and gentlemen. A really good show. I think we're going to have a good show. So let me get my man Andy over here. And we're going to go ahead and break this thing down and, make it happen. Andy, what's popping with you today, my brother? How you feeling?
Salute, Sim. Thanks for asking. I'm good. Hope you are too. And Sim, listen, you had 2 previous episodes with grading. Miraculously, you didn't make it to Evan Fournier. Must have been a reason for that, bro. The first time I can join you on the grades. And we're going to start with my boy Evan probably. So,
hey, you know what? We might as well start with Evan. Since you're here, nobody else is here. It's their fault. They can't get in on it. They should have been on time. Well, go ahead. We'll start with Evan Fournier. We're going to get to Kemba Walker. We're going to get to Alec Burks, Quentin Grimes, Taj Gibson, Jericho Sims, right? And then we'll have a couple other people. For guys who really played a lot of minutes, we have a card. For some of the other guys that were injured, didn't play a lot of minutes or whatever, we don't have a card for them. And it's like 4 players that we don't have a card for. Let's begin with Evan Fournier. Actually, no. Before we get to Evan Fournier, let's go over the grades from the previous show. Okay? And I'll get just a quick, bit of input from you on the grades from the previous show. And then we'll go ahead and break down everybody else, okay? So, the previous show, we started with Julius Randle. And as I said earlier, Julius Randle took an hour to get through. It. A lot of phone calls, a lot of, debates and arguments or whatever. But Julius Randle ended up with a grade of a D-, which, okay, I thought was probably fair. There were a lot of people that wanted to throw him an F. I didn't think that was fair. Most people gave him a C. It ended up being a D-. I thought that was probably fair for Julius Randle. Next was RJ Barrett. He got the grade of a B. Okay, not really because of his stats. When you think about it, his stats are actually worse than last year because of the percentages. We know that he averaged more points, but because of the percentages, it seems as though it's a little bit worse, right? But it's the mindset that I think people were happy with, right? And that's part of his development as well, the mindset. You can clearly see that he changed his mindset during the second half of the season. Then we got to Emmanuel Quickley. He got a B-. All right, a lot of people gave him a B. I was kind of in the C range with Emmanuel Quickley. while I liked the way he played at the end of the season and he showed some signs of running a basketball team, I didn't feel like his percentages raised much. Actually, his three-point percentage went down for the season. His shooting percentage went down a couple of points for the season, although his minutes went up. So I knocked him for that. Some people didn't, I did. Right? He ended up with the grade of a B-. Obi Toppin, he ended up with a grade of a B. I was kind of in between of a C+, B- for Obi Toppin, because I do think that with his extended minutes this year, he went from 11 minutes to 17 minutes per game. The numbers improved, right? He went from averaging 4.1 points per game to 9, 2.2 rebounds to 3.7, 0.5 assists to 1.1. His field goal percentage went from 49.8 to 53.1. All right, so he improved on some of his percentages from last season with the extended minutes. All right, so I thought a grade of a B was deserving for him. And then Mitchell Robinson got a B-. His numbers, for the most part, remained the same, although he played about 2 less minutes per game. All right, his field goal percentage went up still. I'd like to see Mitchell Robinson extend his offensive basketball game, and that's where I kind of knocked him for the season, right? So, Andy, just really quick, first let me say what's up to Steph. Steph, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good, Sim. Thank you for showing up on the show last night. It meant a lot. And hello, Andy. Looking forward to the show.
Honored to be there. For those who don't know, Steph had her first live episode on Dope Soul, so make sure you go over there and check that out. It was a good conversation about Emmanuel Quickley, Malcolm Brogdon, and Jalen Brunson. Who would you choose as your point guard next year? So it was a great conversation. But Andy, just really quick before we get into Evan Fournier, the grades that you saw from those 5 players that we reviewed in the last episode, what are your thoughts, really quick?
Yes, Tim. I actually agree with most of the grades. I would put Julius with a D. It's hard to probably give him an F since his numbers, league-wise, looked good. Like you said, probably, the biggest, problem with Julius and the fans was his attitude. And I think that's a major factor, a really major factor with total basketball, team stuff and the rest of the chemistry. So I think that's a huge knock on Julius. That's why he has a D. If he would be, having these kind of numbers with no attitude problems, he would probably at least have a B, right? So I think that's a really downgrade as far as, everyone sees it. And I think, like you said, I would argue the B- with Quickley between a B and C. But we all know that, I have higher standards for Quickley. And, some things that he didn't improve for me that hurts me the most, which is the decision-making, the shot selection, which basically, kills me as far as Quickley playing the point guard position for the Knicks. And, that's the thing, like you said, that you wanted to see as a part of the development for this season from last season for Quickley. And the same thing goes with Mitch, right? We wanted for him to at least take a shot, develop up like a little bit of a post game. We basically didn't see any kind of development, in that aspect. And I'm not listening to Tony's one drive that Mitchell Robinson had the whole season and one mid-range shot he took, because that ain't development, Tony. So,
oh man, did he take a mid-range shot? He took a mid-range shot this year?
No, it looked like a hook maybe shot, something like that. So it's going to count as a field goal. So
okay. All right. Oh
Andy
man,
be checking us out for real when he don't make the show.
You know that I got like 12 hours, 14 hours of a day, so it's like 6 hours. I'm catching up with the shows. The rest of them I'm at work. So
Wow.
Yeah. And then what did you think about Obi?
Yes, and listen, his minutes rose like 30%. His stats rose maybe not 30%, but I'm still cool with the development of his game. If he would be the starter, I don't think it develops that much. We won't be able to see him get those passes down low and just jump up and make like a little put back shot. So I'd rather see him, if he has a smaller guy on him, if he gets that lob pass under the rim, just go up and dunk. You got to be stronger than that. I realize that he's still making it. The guys are fouling him. But he has to. That's what you got to teach. A strong power forward center. If you get the ball around the hoop, go up and dunk it. He's just laying those in, and I'm cool with it because he's making them. But if he's gonna miss 3 out of 5 of those, that's gonna be a problem. And Sim, listen, in Tibbs' offense, I don't think it's gonna be any kind of a huge future for him. In regards of that being an offensive threat for a longer term, because next season probably teams are going to adjust, and there's not going to be Obi leaking out that many times of a game that we saw basically the last 10 games of the season. I think that's going to be cut, and he ain't going to have those easy opportunities under the hoop.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you heard it. I think Andy, for the most part, kind of agrees with what the chat and the panel graded the players. It seemed to be a little bit, it seemed to be fair, with the grades that he got. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's get to today's players. All right, we got a bunch of them to get through, and I think we're gonna still have some really good conversations. We're gonna start with Evan Fournier. Okay, Evan Fournier. Look. Last season, Evan Fournier in 2020, 2021, he averaged 17.1 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3.4 assists. He shot 45.7% from the field, 41.3% from three, 78.8% from the free throw line, and he averaged 30 minutes a game. In 21-22, the season that just passed, he averaged 14.1 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, 2.1 assists. He shot 41.7% from the field, 38.9% from three, and he was 70.8% from the free throw line, and he did it in 29.5 minutes per game. Couple of season highlights. He set the Knicks record for three-pointers made in the season. He set a career high, 41 points. He had a couple of big games versus the Boston Celtics, and he played 80 of 82 games. Right? That's that's a lot of games. The one thing that you need from a player is to be present and to be there. He was there, 80 of 82 games. I'm going to come around to you, Andy, and that you had a final word on Evan Fournier. I'm going to start with Uncle Julio, man. Uncle Julio, what's popping with you, bro?
Salute, Sam, Andy, and Queen. Congratulations on the first live show yesterday. It was awesome.
Appreciate you.
Definitely, everyone, go check out Dope Soul Sports Talk. That was amazing. Good job, as always. Sim, so I'm first with Evan Fournier.
You're first.
Sim, I'm going to come out the gate. I'm going to give Evan Fournier a B. And I know a lot of Knicks fans probably don't want to hear that. But he came here and did exactly what we paid him the money to do. Be a shooter, right? I knew coming into the season, Evan Fournier was going to be like a top defensive player, right? I knew that Evan Fournier wasn't going to be the guy primarily with the ball in his hands. He was supposed to come into this lineup and inject some shooting to put around RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, and he did exactly that. I understand that the numbers are a little bit down from last season when he was on Boston and Orlando combined, but still, for what we paid him to do, come in here, knock down 3-point shots, like you said, broke the 3-point record, and he was the most durable out of all the Knicks this year. So I'll definitely like a B for Evan Fournier. I think that's definitely appropriate for him. Only thing stopping him from getting an A, in my opinion, is just a little bit of inconsistency. He'll have some games where he's red hot from 3-point range, and then some games where he's just off and he's nowhere to be found. I think if he can improve the consistency a little bit, that puts him in A category. But I think a B is appropriate.
Okay. All right. I kind of agree with you. I think it's appropriate. Steph?
Yeah, Josh kind of stole my thunder. I give him a B as well. And yeah, he's doing what we asked him to do. And as a matter of fact, he has the ability, at least on the offensive end, to do more. But he's playing with RJ. He's playing with Julius. Both of them are ball dominant. So he didn't get the opportunity to play the way he usually plays. He can score on all three levels. He can make some. He's fundamentally sound, and he had to find his way playing off of RJ and Randle. It took him some time, but when he figured it out, like, oh, I'm just supposed to be mostly a catch and shoot guy in this offense. Yeah. All right. I mean, I could do more, but this is what it is. And he embraced it and broke the record. Defensively, I don't think there were some games that it was poor, but basically it was what I expected from Fournier. I think sometimes he was a bit more aggressive and in tune. But for the most part, it's what I expected from him. And I think we got what the Knicks brought him in for. And I think next season, he's going to be, if he's here, he's going to be even better. One thing I like about players, and this was true for Fournier, whenever he had a bad shooting game, you knew he was coming back the next game shooting well. And it happened pretty much each time. So I'll be. Yeah.
Yeah. Andy.
Well, Sim, listen, talking about stealing thunder. Both Beth and Josh said mostly what I was going to say. Let me add a cherry on the top. Me personally, I think he still was underused, like Steph mentioned, that he can do a little bit more on offense. And I'm not gonna, bring up the France team offense that he created more for the big man under the hoop. He, created more for himself, but he had the opportunities. He didn't have that in Tibbs' offense. And I think, like Steph said, next season, we will probably see him not playing that much minutes with RJ and with Julius if we come back with this rotation and this roster. But I'm expecting him to get a little bit more chances to create for the whole offense. We saw him several times. And if you didn't see it, I agree with Tibbs. You got to go back and watch the games several times. He was driving to the hoop and passing out. All except Obi, I think every of the Knicks players had a worse shooting season than last year.
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
Everybody.
So, and we had open shots. It was not only Fournier, but it was the rest of the guys too. Going back to the start of the season, like we said, the first game, awesome. We played the Celtics. He was on fire. He's a shooter, so he's going to be inconsistent. I would love for him to be more consistent. Of course, that goes for everybody. I'd rather have a player that's going to be more consistent than inconsistent. The numbers can be a little bit lower, but consistency is more important than even efficiency for me at this point, because I know what I can expect from a player, so I can set up the offense certain ways. Going back to the defense, I'm not going to elaborate today on that. I'm going to have a special episode on the defense of Evan Fournier. I'm going to bring all the numbers up. And I'm going to, show the Knicks fans, not only NBK fans, all Knicks fans, how perspective with basketball matters. And, listen, several things lie, but the numbers don't lie at the end of the day. So, I'm going to point out all those numbers in the really near future.
Okay. All right.
And listen, my grade for Evan is going to be a B. I'm not going to give him an A because, I think if he would play a steady season from day one, we would see that record broken probably like 75% into the season. It was barely broken, like last 4 or 5 games, he just added to it. But I think, breaking a record like that still matters. And his shooting percentage, if it would be consistent through the whole season, we would get at least a couple of more wins. So that might be the thing that would put us to the play-ins. But I'm not also blaming, us being not in the play-ins, solely on Evan Fournier.
Yeah. And, I agree that Evan Fournier deserves a B. And I'm looking in the chat, the poll that is up. Most people give Evan Fournier a B. 56% of those who voted give him a B. 35% give him a C, 4% give him an A, and 5% give him a D. And I see some people, questioning, like, really? A B for Evan Fournier? Why would it not be a B? That's what I want to know. Right? Why would it not be a B? He didn't surpass last year. If he surpassed what he did last year and he averaged 19, 20 points a game and shot 48% from the field, then you say, oh, he definitely gets an A. He was a little bit worse than what he did last year. He had a couple of games where he didn't show up. I seen somebody say that in the chat. You know, he had some games where he only scored 5 points or 0 points. RJ Barrett had those type of games too.
Don't say nothing, Sam. Don't do it. Don't do it. No.
Right? I mean, that's going to happen when you play in the NBA. You're going to have some games where you don't score a lot of points. It happens that way. You know what I mean? I mean, RJ Barrett had a game where he scored 4. He had a game where he scored 2. He had a game where he scored 7. You know, it's going to happen.
Yeah, and Sim, if I can add also to the Fournier thing, attitude-wise, for a new guy coming into a new team, I think he did an A job. He was basically a perfect teammate. You saw him trying to stop Julius Randle in those, moments that he had. You saw him talking with the young guys. You saw him, communicating with Burks, with everybody basically on the court. So, for a new guy coming in, maybe, young players looking up to him, that was for me, I couldn't ask for anything more at that standpoint.
Yeah. And I do want to point out to people as well, because you're going to see that a lot of players got B's, C's. This doesn't mean that just because these players got a B as a grade that the team is, going to be a playoff team. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of different factors that go into it. These grades are players graded against themselves.
Individuals.
Right? Individually. So they're not being graded against other players in the NBA. They're being graded against themselves. And what they did the previous season, what they could have done. I think a B is a fair grade for Evan Fournier. I became, in the beginning of the season, I was a little skeptical, and I thought that I felt like Evan Fournier was a good pickup for the Knicks. When the season began, I felt like he fit in between RJ Barrett and Julius Randle well, because he didn't need to have the ball in his hands to create. He could shoot the ball coming off of screens. He could, catch and shoot, those type of things. And I felt like that's the type of player that they needed out there on the floor. I was disappointed when the season started, but he settled in and became a little bit more consistent. And I became happy with his play. And honestly, I don't want to lose Evan Fournier because I feel like he's the type of shooter that you need on the team. You can go out and find another shooting guard that's going to need to take a couple of rhythm dribbles to get his shot off and that type of thing. But I don't think that's what this team needs. I think you need a guy like Evan Fournier that can be a knockdown shooter, catch the ball on his fingertips, on his toes, and let it go, boom, on the drop of a dime. That's the kind of you need, and I think we need another guy like that. All of our three-point shooters on this team, except for Quentin Grimes, but even Quentin Grimes needs a second to get his feet set. Evan Fournier doesn't even need that second to get his feet set, and I feel like we need another guy like Evan Fournier that can shoot the ball in that manner. I don't know if we get him, but I think it'd be beneficial. When I look at Atlanta, they got a couple of guys that can catch it and shoot it like that quick. Bam, get the ball up. When we played them in the playoffs, they were getting the ball off so quick and getting that shot up so quick, we couldn't even defend it. And I think it's really, really beneficial to have guys that can get the ball off, get shots off that quick. So I think, a B grade is fair for Evan Fournier. And I want to have him back. Because I think he can be, starting or off the bench, it doesn't really matter to me. I want to have him back because I think he can be a good part of a playoff team. So there we go. A chat. And it looks like the chat mostly agrees. 57% of the voters give him a B. So it looks like the chat mostly agrees with the score for Evan Fournier. Now let's get to Alec Burks. Right, because Alec Burks, I think, Alec Burks is going to catch, he's going to catch some flack from Tom Thibodeau.
Wanted to say something about Evan Fournier. If it's positive, Steph, go ahead.
Go ahead, Steph.
Thank you, Annie. I don't think you've ever interceded for me before. I appreciate it. I think also, God forbid, if Randle goes down, if he's still here, RJ goes down, he's somebody where you'll get to see more of his game.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, he reminds me of Chris Bosh when he was with LeBron and Dwayne Wade. His game kind of shrunk a little bit to fit in with those guys. And I think that's the same with Evan Fournier. If anything ever happens to any of those guys, his role can expand, and we might not, I don't know, I'm not going to say we might not lose that much, but we probably lose less than we would expect to, put it that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Alec Burks, ladies and gentlemen. Let's read some stats for Alec Burks. And I do want to make a quick correction. SB Gorilla, thank you for the super chat. He said Obi shot 73.1% from the free throws line last year and 75.8% from the free throw line this year. Yes, I did make a mistake on that graphic. I actually used his 2-point field goal percentage instead of the free throw percentage. So thank you for that correction. I appreciate it. Alec Burks, 2020-2021, he averaged 12.7 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists, shot 42% from the field and 41.5% from three. He averaged 85.6% from the free throw line, and he played 25.6 minutes per game in 21-22. He averaged 11.7 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot 39.1% from the field, 40.4% from three, and he shot 82.2% from the free throw line, and he played 28.6 minutes per game. Couple of highlights. He played point guard the second half of the season. He played 81 of 82 games. That's a lot of games to play. 81 of 82 games. I'll start with you, Andy, and then we'll come back around to Ben. Your thoughts on Alec Burks?
Yes, and exactly like you said, he played 81 of 82 games, so he was the most durable Knick this season. And I'm happy about that. The thing that I'm not happy about that is that Tibbs put him in a situation that he shouldn't be put in. He's basically a small forward in this league, as far as I see his skill set and stuff like that, because I don't see him as a shooting guard in this league. Shooting guard, you got to have like way more shooting, at least, percentage of shots that you take, straight up shots, than trying to create for yourself and the rest of the, offense. That's why I see him as his primary position as small forward. He was put, like you said, half of the season as a point guard, and that's really hard to adjust. Defensively, I think he played under par, but again, he had to guard smaller, quicker guys, and we know that the NBA's point guards currently in this era is basically going to take every advantage possible of a guy that can't defend fully the position. And that's what happened. We saw Burks getting, ran past by the faster guards, and several other, mistakes on the defensive end. But I'm still not going to knock him because he was playing off his position, and that's a really bad thing to get your player into. And as far as Tibbs, he didn't put RJ in that situation. He didn't put Julius in that situation. The only one player that he put out of position, because you could argue that about Quickley, if you think that he's only a shooting guard, he was playing the point guard position, but Alec Burks was way out of position. Let's call it that way. That's why his numbers, shooting wise, like we said before, every Knick basically except Obi with the shooting numbers was down. He was down also. The only numbers he was higher, it was the assist numbers, because he was playing the point guard position, which basically handles the ball. That's why I think that numbers rose. My final grade for Alec Burks is going to be a B. I would rather not see him as the point guard, but I'm not going to lie, Sim. If we don't make moves, and if we don't actually move Alec Burks, I don't want to even say it loud, Sim. We're kind of starting like we're going to come in next season.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Steph?
I'm going to go B-, maybe even a C, but I'll keep it at a B-. He was playing out of position, no fault of his own. But even then, he still wasn't playing Burke-like. Toward the end of the season, he was hitting his shots. He just seemed, he was just better. And I know it takes some time to get used to playing that position, but I think that was more of a slump than an adjustment, in my opinion, shooting wise. There were some games where you got what you usually get from Burke. You got some threes, you got some drives, you got some assists, you got some steals. And then there were other games where he just did not shoot well at all. And I don't know if all of that is about being out of position.
Right.
So I would say B-.
Yeah. Uncle Julio?
So I agree with Queen here on some of her reasons, but I'm going to go down to a C. And here's my reason why. So even though Alec Burks was listed as a starting point guard for, the second half of the season or what have you, I still think the Tibbs offense is kind of positionless in a way to where you had RJ Barrett and Randle being for the most part, being the people setting other people up. Right. So I do understand people are saying this whole thing about him being point guard, but I think in the offense, when you actually watch the games, he wasn't the one setting up the offense or settling things down and making sure everyone got their shots off. So I'm not really going to use that excuse for Alec Burks, but I agree with the Queen here. Alec Burks, really, really inconsistent throughout the year. He's had some games where he just was shooting lights out, from the top of the key, knocking those shots down. But, very too inconsistent for me, for my taste. A lot more inconsistent than Evan Fournier. I do give him credit for being there and playing a need, filling that role, or playing in the starting lineup whenever he was asked to do it. I think he gets major props for that. Major props for playing 81 out of 82 games. But to me, too inconsistent. I thought he could have played way better. So I'm going to go with a C here.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with Josh. I feel like I know that playing out of position, and then not knowing, like, early in the season he was starting, he was coming off the bench, he was playing point guard, he's playing shooting guard. And that can definitely, hinder your play because you just can't get comfortable. But I thought he could, I don't know, I just thought he could have played better. Even if when playing the point guard spot, I don't think that they expected him to be a traditional point guard. He was just another guard out there on the floor. He was listed at the point guard spot. His shooting numbers went down from last year. Everybody's shooting numbers went down, so it's not just him. I thought he was pretty inconsistent, although he did shoot 40% from the three-point line. I'm giving him a C as well. And then looking at the chat, looks like they're giving him a C, and the numbers that we gave him gives him about a 78, which is about a C+ for Alec Burks. So I think it's pretty much fair for him. Would I like to see Alec Burks back next year? We're going to do a whole keep him and dump him going into next week, but I don't know. You know what I mean? If I can package him and Nerlens Noel for Jalen Brunson, I'm on it. I'm on it. You know what I mean? I'm on it. I'm on it. So that's what I would be looking to do because I do feel like him and Nerlens Noel could be some players that the Dallas Mavericks, I don't want to say covet, but would be interested in and possibly make their team better. Alec Burks being the guy that can go from the shooting guard to a forward to a point guard, from time to time could help them out. And then they get a defensive-minded center that's been in their organization before. Neither one of those guys are going to infringe upon Luka. I think it could be a good fit for them. And it might give Brunson the salary that he wants. So, that could be something that's out there in the air. I don't know. Obviously, the Mavericks might want more. They might want a young player too. We'd see. But I'd be okay with him not coming back. If he came back, I guess it is what it is. I'm not going to be like mad that he came back. But I'd like to clean up the bench, and I feel like he'd be one of the guys that needs to go to clean up the bench, to really get this. Get the roster lean. You know what I mean? Andy, I see you laughing. What's up?
Yeah, man, gotta get these super chats up. Sim packing the bags. You gotta send 2 plane tickets to Dallas. So super chats. Right. Doesn't have to pay for both tickets.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, send them both. Get them out of there. I do it in a heartbeat. So Alec Burks, C+. And I do give him props, though, for being just a multi-purpose player and playing wherever the coach asks him to play without complaining about it, just going out there and doing it to the best of his ability. I give him some props for that. And you need players that are willing to do that. which is one of the reasons why Tom Thibodeau might fight for him to stay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Might be a reason that Tom fights for him to stay. All right. That's Alec Burks. Anybody else? Anything else on Alec Burks?
No, I think everyone's in agreement.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about Kemba Walker. Because, oh man, what a weird season for Kemba Walker, I'm sure. You know what I mean? I know it's not what he expected coming back to New York or coming home to New York. I'm sure he's questioning where he is in his career right now and what's going to happen with the remainder of his career. I don't think it's going to be in New York, though. But Kemba Walker, in 2020, 2021, he averaged 19.3 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4.9 assists, shot 42% from the field, 36% from three, almost 90% from the free throw line, and he played 32 minutes a game. That was with the Boston Celtics, but he only played 50-something games, I believe, with the Boston Celtics. For the Knicks, he played like 35, 36 games. He averaged 11.6 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, shot 40.3% from the field. He shot 36.7% from three. He was 84.5% from the free throw line, and he did it in 25.6 minutes per game. Season highlights, lowlights, whatever you want to call it. He scored 44 points against the Washington Wizards. He was benched for 9 games in the beginning of the season. And then after the All-Star break, he's been away from the team. Complex season for Kemba Walker, right? To go along with the complex season for the Knicks. Josh, your thoughts on Kemba Walker? What do you grade him? Talk about the season a little bit. It's a weird one.
In the beginning of the season, I tried to give Kemba the benefit of the doubt. I felt, pulling him a little bit too early would kind of messed up team chemistry. I think it was way too early to pull him out the starting lineup in the first place. But it turns out it was the right decision. I just, wish I wanted them to build some camaraderie and some chemistry on the floor before Thibodeau made that move. But altogether, Sam, I think this is an F, and this is the first F grade I'm going to give. Probably the only one I'll give, for this team. I mean, you just look at Kemba Walker and what, he was supposed to be for this team. A veteran point guard out there on the floor, played the position, primary ball handler in his hands. He just wasn't that at all. Inability to get to the rim, shooting was off for most nights. And he just wasn't that guy. And it just was a terrible fit. And I think a terrible fit with the rest of the players on the floor. And I just think with the injury history, he just couldn't come into his own this season at all. Had a few good games, here and there, but it's not what this team needed, in my opinion. This team needed a much stronger presence at that position, and he failed to provide that being a veteran. I understand the contract is what it is. It's not catastrophic for the team to have someone like that, but, it's an F, in my opinion.
Okay, an F. All right. Steph?
I'll give him a D. You all know the my take on him from the beginning. But I did think that if you was going to rock with him, he's not a good defender. You're going to have to leave him out there enough time to at least offset his poor defense with some offense. We didn't do that. I thought he played better when he was on the ball. And Randle, not being much of a playmaker. I think once they... And the games that he did that, we looked more fluid, and he had more success as well. And then for whatever reason, we went back to Julius being more. This was before RJ popped. Julius being more of a facilitator, and then Kemba just trying to play off of that. He just wasn't effective at all. So I think part of it, would be the coaching staff as well. Like creating an offense geared toward him. Would that have worked better for him and us, right? So some of it was him, some of it was the offense as well. And Tibbs was right when he pulled him out of the lineup. We gave him such a hard time about it. And then for whatever reason, he came back because of injury. And then now everybody's like, why is Kemba starting? Why do we keep trotting him out here every game? He just it was just a poor fit from the beginning.
Yeah. It was. Poor fit. Really poor fit from the beginning.
Yeah.
Andy.
Yes, this is really hard for me. And it's not like because I love like Kemba Walker or stuff like that. It's just I really think that it's not like he didn't have a fair chance, but I think we expected more from him as a two-time All-Star, that he's gonna come in and he's gonna be that point guard that's gonna gain respect from Julius Randle. That didn't happen from the get-go. That didn't happen from till the time that he got benched. A quick reminder here: he got benched on Julius Randle's birthday. So I don't know. May sometime wishes come true, sometime no. but yeah. And like Steph said, I really think that if we would adjust the offense more to Kemba's game, he would be more efficient. He would be that more of an offensive threat that he when he had the ball, right? And exactly like Steph said, in those games that he had the ball more in his hands and we didn't run the offense through Julius or through RJ, it looked maybe a little bit better, but he also was more efficient on the court. He scored at least more points, right? And that was the agenda from the get-go of the season. That was the agenda when they signed him. I think, he didn't establish himself with the coaching staff. That's why we didn't see, more of an adjustment to run the offense through Kemba. And I think that is 50-50 on him and 50-50 on the coaching staff. When you're signing, like I said before, two-time All-Star, you got to budge and at least try it that way. We only tried a couple of games. Then he got set. Then we know that listen, if you're going to sit a guy like Kemba Walker, that he was basically a franchise player with the Hornets, with the Bobcats, whatever that franchise name was, you can expect, some ego coming out of him. He was a homegrown kid in New York. There was going to, be a rift. And just by the way that he got benched, I think that was also a bad thing, because you can get benched if you talk to a player, if you tell him, if you do it way more easily and stuff like that. He basically got benched by Tibbs and is like, this is my decision. You're going to the bench, bro. And he didn't get even a minute off the bench. If you would ease it out, I think it might have worked a little bit different. That's why, it's hard for me because, listen, at this point, if you think before the season, the signing really didn't pan out. So basically he deserves an F. But when you think about it, that he didn't get really, really, really a fair chance, maybe if they gave it to him, he would be a C. So I think I got to go mid-ground and go with a D at the end. We know that he's not going to be a great defender or anything like that. But I think, we saw him that he has potential on the offense. We didn't play any pick and rolls. We know that he can play the pick and roll game. We didn't, play that offense through him. So I think I got to go at the end with a D. I think, like you guys said, it was basically because of the poor, fit.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with everybody as well. And I'm looking in the chat, 46% of the group says, of those who voted, give him a D. 21% give him a C. 31% give him an F. And 2% give him a B. It's hard for me to give a player an F.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking anybody who does. It's just hard for me to give a player an F. If you go out there, you shoot 36% from three, even though it was 40% from the field, you're out there and you can, you scored 44 points in the game. When I look at, his attitude with the whole ordeal, he could have really tried to make a mess of it if he wanted to. To me, those things are just going to automatically bump him up a little bit. I don't think there were expectations coming in, and I think they were probably unfair expectations against him. I didn't expect him to come in and average 19 points per game. I thought he would come in and be between 12 and 14 points per game. He was pretty close to that. But I wanted to see his assists go up to about 6 or 7 assists per game because he was, facilitating a little bit more. Now, I know that hasn't been what he's done throughout his career, but at some point you got to start to change your basketball game, when you got an injury history, you're a little bit older, you start to change your basketball game. And maybe this is the first step in him redeveloping his basketball game. And we caught him at the first step of redeveloping his basketball game. And maybe somebody else gets him, a year from now or whenever, when he's learned that game a little bit better and he's able to do it. You know what I mean? I'm giving him a D as well. And it's really not all his fault. To me, it's kind of the entire situation. You know what I mean? But I think he's at a crossroads in his career, and he's got to figure out, who am I as a player right now? Almost like Carmelo Anthony had to do, right? Melo had to figure out, who am I as a player? And I think Kemba Walker's in that same exact boat right now. He's got to figure himself out, kind of reinvent himself as a basketball player, maybe as a bench guy, someone who's a little bit more, can get assists for you, facilitate a little bit better. I think he's got to reinvent himself as that guy to make his career last a few more years. I'll come to Andy and then Josh.
Yes, some two things. First thing, the chat that gave him a B, man, you got a B from his hood, because that was crazy. And the second thing, Sim,
B for the Bronx. They're from the Bronx.
Yeah, exactly. That had to be that, man. But I had maybe a side topic, because we're gonna probably have maybe even an episode about this. But do you think that when the management gave Tibbs and the Knicks like a point guard with Kemba's cachet, right, as a former All-Star, 2-time All-Star, did that put any kind of a pressure on Julius that the offense is not going to run through him? Because listen, the first games we were cool because we started 5-1 and stuff like that. But then maybe they started to try to run the offense through Kemba, and Julius might have been torn. That's where the problems might have started, and it lingered through the season. That's why we saw the attitude things from Julius. I think it's more to it than fans just say, listen, he wasn't playing good and stuff like that. I think Julius' uncertainty of his position on the offense and the Knicks, and I said it before, if we are gonna get in better point guard, Julius's numbers are gonna go down this season. And I think we didn't bring that kind of a floor general that Julius respected, but he might have felt like, listen, they're trying to get, the offense not running through me. I'm not going to look that good. I'm not going to be able to do my thing. And maybe that was his problem, down deep in him, right? And that might be, causing that uncertainty in Julius, and that might be one of the situations that caused the next, season to collapse, actually.
Yeah, I definitely think there was some uncertainty as to how to play, because there were times when it was going back to last season where it was just Julius Randle posting up. And then there were times when Kemba had the ball in his hands a little bit more. And this was early in the season. And then you seen later in the season, it was in RJ's hands. So it was like, when you talk about with Julius Randle, I'm sure there was some uncertainty as far as, okay, what do you want me to do? How do I play? You know what I'm saying? And trying to figure it out. I think part of it is from the beginning of the season, I think the coaches, after training camp, and you see how they play, I think they needed to sit down and say, okay, here's the roles and make it clear. Right. That was one of the things that people said last year about Tom Thibodeau is he was going to be clear with you about what your role is. Maybe that didn't happen this year. Maybe nobody was really clear about what the roles were, and there was some ambiguity there, and that caused just bad chemistry throughout everyone. And that's on Tibbs if that happened,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Sim, just to piggyback, just with one sentence about it, the difference would be if you bring a vet point guard that's not looking to score, right? Like a Rajon Rondo. He doesn't even look to shoot. Like a Elfrid Payton, that he's not a threat for Julius on the offensive end. That's why he might be cool with those guys. Meanwhile, Kemba, he's basically offensive guard, right? So maybe Julius felt like, listen, I ain't gonna be able to score these 26, 28 points a game because he's gonna take more shots. I'm gonna be like the second option. Maybe I'm not gonna have that many opportunities to score. That uncertainty, I think, might have bothered Julius more than the Knicks fans think.
Josh?
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I just want to say I totally agree with the ambiguity part about the coaching staff not really putting set roles out there. But my point, not to combat that, I still think with these guys all being veterans, particularly Kemba Walker being a 2-time All-Star, has some cachet. I still think a little bit of it is on him to come in and impose his will a little bit. I'm not saying go rogue. I'm not saying, disobey the coaching staff or anything like that. But at some point, if there is uncertainty, you have to, as a veteran point guard, at least put your mark on things. And I felt like Kemba Walker really didn't add anything positive. Like, there was nothing I can point to for Kemba Walker and say, okay, that was positive. And I know, Sam, you're going to bring up the point about him being professional after he was benched and all that, but you're supposed to be a professional. That's what they pay you to do, right? So that's the reason why I go with that grade. And I totally agree with everyone here about the ambiguity from the coaching staff. I think there was no set roles. I think they kind of figured that out on the fly, and they made a mess of the whole thing. So I definitely agree with that point. But I still felt like Kemba, as a veteran point guard, injury history or not, should have imposed his will a little bit more.
Okay, no, I agree with that. And collectively, he's got a grade of a D between us on the panel and the chat. But about him, about it being professional, you can say, that's what you're supposed to do. But, when you kind of get jerked around a little bit, and I think, you might feel like, what, I'm not cool with this. And maybe you might come out and say something publicly or whatever, do whatever.
Like Will Smith, I got you, Sam.
I mean, maybe not totally like Will, but but however he did it, if he did say something, he did it the right way, right? He didn't come out and just blast the coach or blast the players. If he said something, he said it to Tom Thibodeau in the locker room, or he had his agent say it to whomever, and so that, and maybe that was the reason why it was mutually agreed upon for him to be away from the team.
Except the time he called him a BAN while he was running down the court.
After he made the shot.
After he made the shot. But in terms of him imposing his will, I think that him being a nice guy cost him.
Yeah.
Not wanting to step on Julius Randle toes. And I get it, because of the season Randle had, but 20 games in, you could see that Randle was not that Randle.
Right.
And that, it would have bode well for us, had he did that, and it might have caused a little friction between him and Randle, but sometimes friction is good, if it gets worked out along the way.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it probably would have gotten worked out. There's, you go through that, when you're trying to figure out your roles and who's going to do what, you go through that. And then, eventually, it comes together. But I do agree. I think the entire team is too nice.
Yeah, I agree.
The entire team is a bunch of nice guys, you know what I mean? And afraid to stand up to each other and say, you've got to do this and that.
Bring them back, Sam. Bring them back.
Yeah, okay.
And you know what? I think Julius and Fournier went through that. And I think that, they got to the point where they respected each other. But early in the season, I think they went through that.
I think they did as well. Yeah. I think so. All right, let me see. Let's do we'll get to some of the young guys after we do the old guys. All right, so let's do Taj. We should be able to get through Taj, I think, pretty quick. The greatest D for Kemba Walker, ladies and gentlemen. Taj Gibson. Father Time. In 2020, 2021, averaged 5.4 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, just under 1 assist. Shot 62.7% from the field, 20% from three. Shot 72.7% from the free throw line and 20.8 minutes per game in 21-22. 4.4 points per game, 4.4 rebounds per game, 0.6 assists per game, 51.8% from the field, and 39.5% from the three-point line. And compared to previous years, he took a good number of threes for Taj Gibson. He shot 80.8% from the free throw line, and he averaged 18.2 minutes per game. Obviously, he's a locker room leader, a presence in the locker room. He's always ready when he's needed. And he shot the highest percentage from three in his career. Andy, Taj Gibson.
Sim, I think this grade doesn't need any kind of an explanation. I think he should get an A. Why? Like you said before, total professional, always ready to go. He didn't do anything wrong. Not to mention what I already said, a couple of streams back, that Tibbs said that he wants his big man to stretch the floor, and he was talking about centers. Nerlens Noel, Mitch, and Taj was a third string, center. And he made the biggest leap in three-pointers this season. So I think you can't ask anything else and anything more from Taj. Total professional. I hope he stays with the Knicks as a Herb Williams type, that he's going to be bouncing around with the coaching staffs and then with these young guys around the league. So I'm giving him an A, and I don't think he's going to get any kind of other grade.
Yeah. Okay. Steph.
Yeah, the same. A. I mean, I think he did everything that Tibbs asked him to do. He's always where he's supposed to be. And even at his age, he still impacts the game in terms of rebounding, in terms of defending, even guys, much bigger than him. The 3-point shot, but also his 2-point shot. He was the only presence we had other than Randle who could hit a mid-range shot in the key.
Yes. Yes.
Because even Mitch, when he got it, if he wasn't right there under the basket, if he was 2 feet out, that ball was going back out to the wing. And maybe, he was asked to do too much for his age, playing 18 minutes a game, but that's not his fault. He was asked to do it, and he did it as well as anybody on this team in terms of executing his role.
Yeah, I agree. Josh?
Sam, I can see the tweet right now. The whole MBK panel gives Taj Gibson an A for his grade on the season.
A for AARP, somebody said.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree. For what his role is, he to me, I think this is why Tibbs likes him. Right. And, the age aside and the minutes aside, let's talk about his game for a second. We spoke about the 3-pointers, right? And his ability to stretch the floor, which I think this team needs, a consistent partner rotation, a 5 or 4 in a rotation that can knock the 3-ball down to stretch the floor a little bit. But defensively, rebounding. Taj Gibson, I think in the beginning of the season, was probably the Knicks' best pick and roll big man. Defensive big man.
Right. Defensive
big man. He can hedge the pick and roll. Smart enough to cut off those passes that were from opposing point guards into the paint. I understand he's a little bit older, but for what he is and what he does, I think it's very important. There's no wonder why Tibbs wants a guy like that to be around. I think if Taj Gibson was 10 years younger, he would be a major piece for this team.
He would take Randle's minutes.
Yeah, he would. He would.
Yeah, he would. So I totally agree with Andy and Queen here. I think this is an A. And I'm hoping that he doesn't get paid that much money either. I'm hoping that we can have him around in some sort of Udonis Haslam capacity, or if he decides to retire in the coaching role. I think he's really important to this locker room. Yeah. So I'm giving him an A.
Yeah, I agree. I'm giving him an A as well. And I'm looking in the chat. 54% of the chat is giving him an A, 33% is giving him a B, 10% is giving him a C, and 4%, I don't know who they are, but they're giving him a D, for whatever reason they have. I don't know.
Because he took minutes away from Sims.
I guess so. But, I want Taj to be on his team. And I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he wants to retire in New York. 1, because it's the Knicks. 2, his family, his father's, in New York, and he wants to be home with his family. So I think he does retire a Knick. I just hope it does. And Tibbs, right? I just hope it's not soon. I hope he's not thinking about retiring soon. I know he's on the books to make $5 million next year, which I think is fair for him. Mm-hmm. And I hope that he plays, another 2 years or so with the Knicks, because I think you need a guy like that around. You know what I mean? Just a guy that can really show you the lay of the land. New guys coming in, rookies coming in, and people can say, well, he's taking up a roster spot. He can do that as a coach. But I think there's a difference once you become a coach, it's like you cross over a different line. You know what I mean? So I think you still need that player that's in the locker room with the guys. When all the coaches leave and go to another room, you got his voice in the locker room. You know what I mean? And I think that's important, to have a guy, to have his voice there with those guys in the locker room.
And at the end of the bench, during timeouts and all that stuff, look at what Udonis Haslam does for the Heat. I think he does a tremendous job at that role for the Miami Heat.
Right.
But even more for Taj, he can play.
He can play.
So they see him out there playing. And so now when he talks in the locker room, maybe it has even more meaning for them. And they see him at his age going out there, grabbing rebounds, hitting the rotations, hitting threes.
Right. You know what I mean? And, that's great to have a guy at the end of your bench that can come in, give you production. He's not going to worry about minutes. If he doesn't play, he doesn't care. If he plays, he's ready. You know what I mean? You need a guy like him around. So I hope he stays around. I give him an A as well. So, yeah, Taj Gibson gets an A, and I think it's a well-deserved A. And I do think he's going to be around for a little while. You know what I mean? I think he's going to be around. So Taj Gibson gets an A. Let's move on. You go from the oldest guy on the team. Now let's go down to some of the younger guys on the team. Let's start with...
Here we go.
Well, let's start with Jericho Sims, since we were talking about Taj Gibson and someone who played in Jericho Sims spots every once in a while. Yeah, that's not the one that I want to get up. So let's go to Quentin Grimes, and then we'll go to Jericho Sims since I didn't have the right slide up. All right. Quentin Grimes. He's a rookie, so he didn't have any stats last season. No stats last season. This year, he averaged 6 points a game, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. He shot 40.4% from the field. He shot 38.1% from the three-point line. He shot 68.4% from the free throw line. And he averaged 17.1 minutes per game. Season highlights. Obviously, it's his rookie season. He scored a career high, 27 points. Right? He went from 0 playing time to a fixture in the rotation, and he actually started 6 games as a rookie. And this was, obviously, he didn't play down the stretch of the season. So this was before you even got to the point where, people like, after the All-Star break, right? Play the young guys, do this and that. He started games that were serious games for the Knicks and meaningful games. Josh, talk to me about Quentin Grimes.
So, Sam, I don't like to be, subjective when it comes to players. I try to be fair, but Quentin Grimes is probably one of my favorite Knicks on the team right now as a rookie. Out the gate, this guy shot the basketball, and he was making all his shots even when it didn't go in. He still shot the basketball. Something about that confidence that we spoke about on the last show. He has it. Not afraid to put up, and I'm just talking about the offensive side of the ball. I feel like he can develop a little bit of that dribble game, off the dribble game. I feel like that is coming for him. But in his first season, you look at those numbers, shooting almost 40% from 3. Field goal percentage overall is a little bit down. But as a rookie, I think those are really solid numbers, not to mention what he brings you defensively. And I think that's the thing that takes the cake for me. I'm going to give him a B, and I expect him to be a fixture in this rotation for years to come if he doesn't get traded. So I'm going to go with a B here.
Okay. Steph?
Yeah, B minus for me. Everything that Josh said, but I love this kid's attitude. And he's one of my favorite Knicks on the team because I would prefer to have a high floor guy than a high ceiling guy who's just up and down. Right. And you know what you're going to get from Grimes each game. And if he doesn't develop any more than this, you have a solid 3-and-D guy. But what I also like about him was his attitude. When he said coming in, everybody kept telling him, you're not going to play for Tibbs. He doesn't play rookies. And he said, well, basically, I'm going to have to make him play me, and that was his attitude. And even Tibbs said he treats practices like games. So I like that. I like that about him. He was injured. Even when he came back, he didn't shoot well, but I still think there was lingering injury issues as well. Yeah, I really like him. I'll say B minus.
Okay. Andy.
I have no idea what Steph and Josh are talking about. Why this kid doesn't get an A is beyond me. Listen, he was a late first round pick. I didn't see him playing like 200 minutes the whole season. He overachieved my expectations from him, and I realized that he was at one time, when I browsed the history of him, before the draft, that he was literally a top 10 prospect. But he had those turbulences, in the colleges and stuff like that. I'm not gonna get deep into that, but I think I didn't expect him, like Josh said, to be that kind of a confident shooter off the bench, and when he came into the game. So, and listen, his defense, it's on NBA level. He can stay with NBA players on the perimeter. It's going to be, of course, it's going to be some guys that are going to, go past him and stuff like that. And because he's a rookie. But I really think that, like Steph says, even if he doesn't develop that much more, he's still a 3-and-D guy. And he's going to have like 10, 12 more seasons in the league. And he's going to, get those playing minutes. I'm happy with what I saw from Quentin. Totally happy. If we're going to pick around 20s, 25 picks, and we're going to get guys like Quentin that are going to get, rotation minutes, I'm totally cool with it. So I'm giving Quentin an A.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andy. I like what Quentin Grimes brought to the team, man. And for a guy that, started off not playing at all to becoming a fixture in the rotation, and then eventually starting a couple of games and important games too. Not like they were just throwaway games. He started some important games. I think that's great. Because I didn't really have any expectations whatsoever from Quentin Grimes, and it surprised me actually, because I thought Deuce McBride was going to be one of the first young guys to come off the bench. Obviously, Jericho Sims, when Nerlens Noel played in the first game of the season. But as far as the guards, it surprised me when Quentin Grimes started. He was one of the first guys to come off the bench when in a blowout situation. He got in still with 5 or 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I was a little bit surprised. But then you started to see the energy on defense, the fact that he can knock down a shot. Before he got injured, his confidence was growing even more. Where you started to see him trying to take the ball to the basket a little bit more and work on that pull-up shot. You started to see his offensive game expand more. He's not afraid of the big moment. He's not afraid to take big shots. And I feel like the team trusts him in those situations. I'm giving him an A as well. I think he's a fixture. And just thinking about, we were talking last night on Dope Soul about the rotations, and if the Knicks get Jalen Brunson or someone to start at the point guard spot, and then you still got Emmanuel Quickley and Derrick Rose, and now you got a situation who you go with, Cam Reddish or Quentin Grimes. And then you got Obi, and you're gonna have whoever your backup center is. But
Fournier, don't forget about him.
Well, Fournier, I'm just assuming he's in that starting lineup. If Jalen Brunson is there, you know what I mean. So then now, what happens if you got Cam Reddish and Quentin Grimes, and then maybe even Fournier is in the mix? Like, who starts, who's coming off the bench? Either way, there's 3 guys right there that you got to figure out what those slots are going to look like, which is why that glut's got to get cleaned up. But Quentin Grimes is going to be there. So who's going to be left out? Quentin Grimes is going to be in there, I believe. Go ahead, Steph. You're muted.
That's why I think they got to make some trades to clear up the roster some. Derrick Rose is healthy and he's back. It's going to be really crowded. Somebody's going to be left out that's deserving. Yeah.
And the chat, 60% of the chat gave him a B, 34% gave him an A. 5% gave him a C, and 2% gave him a D. I think it's just some people in there trolling, to give him a D. Like, why? Why would you do that?
They must be from Guillermo's channel.
Right. Like, why? But, collectively, he has about an 89 when you add everyone together. So that gives him about a B+. right? Which sounds pretty fair for Quentin Grimes. So we'll throw it up there. Quentin Grimes gets a B+ on the season, and I think he's a kid that you're going to be looking and having around for a while. What do you think? Let me ask you this before we move on to Jericho Sims. Do you think Quentin Grimes, I'll start with you, Josh, can reach an all-star level if the Knicks are good?
As of right now, I don't see that in this game. I mean, anything's possible. Let me just start off the bat and say that anything is possible.
Always start with that, Josh. Always start with that.
Yeah.
Young players.
Yeah, you got to put that out there. I think anything's possible, but at this point, I don't see much in his game that screams all-star to me. I did notice a little bit he was putting the ball on the floor a little bit, faking the three-pointer and then trying to drive to the lane a little bit. But I just don't see that right now at this current point in time, him having all-star potential in this game.
Okay. And I'm not talking about an annual all-star type of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just once or twice or something like that.
Yeah. Steph, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with Josh. I see a high floor guy. I don't know if I see a really high ceiling guy, but he could definitely surprise us. And like Josh said, I saw him put the ball on the floor and get to the cup a few times. And if he adds that to his game, it's possible. Like Andy said, he was a top 10 prospect, coming out of high school. He went through some adversity. I think it was Kansas, I want to say, was the first school.
Yep. Kansas,
and had to regroup and go to Houston and kind of like rebuild his game. That shows a lot of character. It's possible, but I don't really see that as a ceiling for him. But give me a high floor guy anytime.
Okay. Andy?
Sim, let me say it like this. I see him at the All-Star weekend, not playing in the All-Star game. He's going to be in a three-point shooting contest.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I can see, Sim. All-Star game is a little bit too high. We saw probably worse All-Stars in the game because the fans voted them in. But
That's true.
but I think All-Star is a tad too high for him. Listen, he is going to have a career. Probably if he pans out what I think his ceiling is going to be, a Kyle Korver type of a dude that you can run every kind of a play for him to get an open shot from the three.
Mm-hmm.
He literally has, and listen, Fournier being with him on the roster, he can learn plenty of things from Fournier. He has already the shooting motion and stuff like that. I think really that he can develop, but All-Star is a reason.
And
at this point,
Yeah. But Steph, he would have to shoot like 70% from three to get an All-Star.
Well,
no. But what if he comes back next season and he has a mid-range, he's going to the cup, and you get that type of. I guess the point I'm trying to make is our take has to change as their game changes.
Yeah.
So if he comes back next year scoring on all three levels, that changes.
Or like a Klay Thompson, shooting from the mid-range, shooting from three.
Yeah, I see that.
Deadly.
Yeah, and see, I don't think he's going to be, just from what I see now, and of course he can develop his game. I don't see him being someone that gets there annually, but I think if he becomes a starter on this team, I think he could be a guy if the Knicks are good, right? Say the Knicks get to the point they're the number one team in the Eastern Conference, and sometimes those number one seeds have three guys on the All-Star team. You know what I mean? And he could be that third guy, maybe that makes the All-Star team because he's averaging 16 points a game and shooting, 50% from the field and 42% from three or something like that.
It's possible.
So I think him, if the Knicks ever get that good, I think he would be one of those guys who are, it depends on what the Knicks are doing, what the team is doing. I mean, Charles Oakley made the All-Star team.
That's true.
With the New York.
Saying it like he was trash, Sam.
I'm not saying it like he was trash. I'm not saying it like he was trash. I'm just saying
oak wood. He was like an oak, man.
Yeah, I'm not saying it like he was trash. I'm just saying, he wasn't.
He was stiff though.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And it was because the Knicks were good.
He's coming to get you, Sam. He's coming to get you.
Right. It was because the Knicks were good. That's the reason why he made the All-Star team. So I see it kind of like that. There could be those type of situations for him, possibly. You know what I mean?
I would love to see him and Barrett start at 2 and 3.
Oh yeah.
At some point, Andy. Some point.
Steph, I was gonna raise my finger and add that I'm cool with Fournier losing minutes to Quentin Grimes. I'm really cool with it. Really.
Okay.
Quentin Grimes is a guy that I don't fear he can, he's not that much of a drop off from Evan Fournier in this kind of an offense that Tibbs is running. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
They can literally split it halfway for me.
SB Gorilla, thank you for the super chat. He said, if he becomes Allen Houston, we got to steal. Even if he becomes a poor man's Allen Houston. And yeah, I can see that. I can see what he's saying. Definitely. I mean, you got him at, the 25th pick. You traded down a couple of slots to get him. Mm-hmm. I can definitely see that. All right, let's talk about Jericho Sims. All right, another rookie. No stats from last year because he's a rookie. All right, he averaged 2.2 points per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, 0.5 assists per game. He shot 51.8% from the field. He shot 72.2% from three. He shot 41.1% from the free throw line. And he did it in 13.5 minutes per game. Couple of season highlights. Obviously, he's a rookie. He had his first career double-double versus the Brooklyn Nets. And he had a career-high 14 rebounds versus the Toronto Raptors. And he did start 5 games this season. Josh? Jericho Sims.
Oh, this is an A+.
And this is like probably my second favorite player on the team, I would say, because I wanted the Knicks to draft this guy. I just seen something in him, like he's very coachable. You can tell he's definitely had a lot of development while he was in college. I think he was a 4-year college player. And in the limited minutes that he did get, you've seen him make a difference out there on the floor. I feel like he has the fundamentals defensively, as most rookies don't have, particularly rookie big men, unless you're a top 10 pick. He's 58th in the draft with some of those same fundamentals defensively. He can hedge the pick and roll, right? Not as good as Taj Gibson, in my opinion, but he can hedge the pick and roll. And I just like, Sims out there. He's a real quiet guy, really reserved. I want to see that, him try to, grow a little bit more in his personality on the floor, so he can start putting up more shots. He needs to work on and keeping the ball higher after he gets rebounds. He tends to bring it back down and dribble and look for other people around the floor. But I think overall, I'm gonna give him a B for just him being a rookie, him stamping, putting his status on the team towards the end of the season as Noel was out and Mitch was out. I'm gonna give him a B, and I'm really close to giving him an A.
Okay, all right, Steph.
I'm gonna give him a C, and I like Jericho Sims, 41%. From the free throw line. When he does get an offensive rebound, he doesn't look to put it back. So you got to take something, off from that. However, and offensively he's limited, as well. However, to piggyback off of what Josh said, he's one of my favorite players on the team as well. I like his body type. I like his defensive IQ. And even on offense, I like the way he sets screens. He doesn't just make contact. He clears the defender out. I like his ability to switch out on the perimeter and guard perimeter plays, even trap at the perimeter. The Knicks did a great job with him, but he's still raw. When he gets the rebound, he doesn't really look to put it up. He's shooting 41.1% from the field. He has a lot, he has a lot to learn.
Yeah. Andy?
Sim, can you remind me how many games he played?
Oh yeah. Jericho Sims played in, I believe it's over 40 games. I'm checking right now.
Okay. That's enough of the information, Sim, first off the bat, I think if Netherlands Noel was capable to wear a jersey for the Knicks in those 40 couple of games, Jericho Sims probably wouldn't get the burn on those nights. But listen, he's a rookie. Like Josh said, he was a rookie after 4 years of college. sometimes guys don't shoot great from the free throw line, but also he's a presence under the his body is ready, NBA ready. Let's call it that way. Maybe not for center position, but at least for the power forward position, as far as his height goes, he's really ready. Like off the bat, you can put him in the game. He might foul, but he's still a young player. Raw, like Steph said, he doesn't have a high ceiling, that's for sure. But he was the 58th pick.
Yeah.
Guys from around that pick, Steph, usually after the first season, they go to Europe, China, whatever. So him getting minutes and actually, I think he actually surprised me with his game. I saw the tapes after Josh, mentioned his name in the pre-draft, shows that we had. I saw his tapes. I was thinking, like, listen, this is a typical, center that was on the great, healthy bodybuilding program from college, right? So he's built up. If he wouldn't be in the NBA picked by the Knicks, probably would be playing, around in Europe, or would stay in the States and go totally different path of his career, not even in the basketball. That's why I'm positively surprised with Jericho Sims. I think, his ceiling is like the third rotation center. So if your second rotation center gets injured, he can easily step into that. I don't see him getting a contract probably above $5 million per year, but I'm still cool with that. You got to have a guy like that that's going to be cheap, that's going to be available on the court, that can fill in for a couple of minutes a game. And like Malik Cologne said, he can see a Big Ben there. I don't see that. That's a reason, because Ben Wallace was a great rebounder. Like great, I mean like 20 couple of rebounds per game.
3-time defensive player of the year too.
Yeah. So I think he lacks probably like 3-4 inches of height to be a Ben Wallace type.
Ben Wallace was short though.
6'9", Andy.
Ben Wallace was 6'9"?
Yeah.
So Jericho Sims is the same height, right?
Yeah.
But so Jericho Sims doesn't have that defensive instinct in that case. But listen, he was the 58th pick. I'm not expecting that. Everything, is a positive surprise for me. I'm giving him an A because I didn't see him getting even a minute on the Knicks. I was thinking he's going to be a G League stash for the whole season. Okay. Probably next season, even not on the roster. So,
wow.
All right. See, I'm with Steph. I'm more in the C range for Jericho. Probably a high C range.
Yeah.
The
C
40
plus.
Yeah, right. The 41.1% from the free throw line, and I know he doesn't get there a lot, and he's not a shooter, but for me,
Sim, let me cut you off, bro. Listen, he showed more offensive moves than Mitch Robinson in 2 years.
What was the moves though?
No, he can bring after he gets the rebound, he can at least get you a couple of dribbles and move the ball up the court. Mitch never does that.
And let me make a quick
He's going the other way
here.
though.
Yeah, let me.
He's going towards the basket. He's going towards the basket.
Yeah, let me make a quick correction on here. His field goal percentage is 72.2, and his 3-point percentage is 0. So it shows wrong on the screen. I'm going to correct that in just a second. But, I mean, listen, anyone that shoots, it's just me, and in my opinion, anyone that shoots 41.1%, it just bothers me. And I know, guys aren't shooters, this and that, but you have so much time to practice free throws.
He's in the gym then.
Huh?
Building the muscles.
He's pumping iron.
Yeah, right. He's in the weight room. Yeah, exactly. He's in the weight room. I mean, you have time to practice your free throws and really focus on them, and that's what it takes, practice and concentration. Figure out a way to hit those free throws. And I know he's a rookie, and he has a chance to get better at knocking down free throws, but, man, 41%, that's rough for me. And then I didn't see much by the way of him, offensively, how he can score the basketball. I do think he has more skills than he's shown.
Right.
And I'm hoping that next season we'll get a chance to see a little bit more of what he can do offensively. I want him to, like Steph said, when he gets an offensive rebound, don't always look to kick it out. Bring it back up, right? Try to get you a bucket. You know what I'm saying? Bring it back up. Go score. Some of it is, I guess, maybe we're used to what we see with Mitch. Mitch is like so much longer than everybody. As soon as he gets a rebound, he puts his arms in the air and he's already at the rim. He doesn't have that kind of length, right? He has more size and width to his body than length, like Mitch does. So, look, I'm happy with what I've seen from him for the season. Pleasantly surprised. I'm hoping that I can see more and see him grow a little bit more. So, that's where I am, with a C. Collectively, though, he gets an 83 from everybody. So he ends up getting a B for his grade.
Stim, I'm gonna make a bold prediction right here on MBK.
Okay.
And you can save this or whatever. Well, 2 bold predictions. I think Jericho Sims is going to be a long-term Knick.
I can see that.
I think so. And the second thing, next year, he's gonna bring the cornrows out. It's gonna happen.
We'll see. I don't know.
Cornrows and the headband.
Okay, we'll see. I think he's been rocking his hairstyle for a while.
The Ben Wallace do, channeling his inner Ben Wallace.
Right.
Yeah.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Jericho Sims gets a B. All right. The chat gave him a B. 57% of the chat gave him a B. 25% gave him a C. Right. So, seems pretty fair for him to get a B. Now we're going to move on to some players that, well,
the bench warmers.
I mean, not even bench warmers. They were bench warmers in suits, most of them, except for Miles McBride. So these guys played limited minutes because of injury, right? Or that Miles McBride only, he only played 9 minutes a game. He spent a lot of time in the G League. So we got Derrick Rose, Cam Reddish, Miles McBride, and Nerlens Noel. Right, so instead of doing a whole breakdown of what they averaged and stuff like that, we just have their names with their picture on the board, and we can go down and give these guys a grade. All right, not that we're doing them, not that we don't respect them, but I mean, Derrick Rose played 25 games this season, right? Cam Reddish played what? How many games did Cam Reddish play with the Knicks this season? 18 or less?
20, yeah.
Right? How many games did Nerlens Noel play?
26.
26 games for Nerlens Noel. And then Miles McBride only averaged 9 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Right? So, and Cam Reddish played 15 games for the Knicks. So, to do that big of a breakdown, I don't know if you give these guys incomplete or what.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We can give them an incomplete and like a sentence, extra.
In a sentence extra.
Yeah. Yo, Sim, first of all, I don't know. I'm not sure, bro, if that Nerlens Noel photo you got is from this season, bro. I can't believe it.
Right. Yeah. No doubt about that. I mean, you gotta give them incomplete.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at if you want to. You can look at what they average for the season, but it's just not a big enough sample size to really say what they can do.
Yeah.
And what they are. You know what I mean? So we'll give them an incomplete for the season. All of them got eyes for incomplete.
Yeah. Sam, I do want to make a comment about Miles McBride though, and a lot of people I know, Kev, Tim should have played Miles McBride. He should have did that. I think Miles McBride. Oh yeah, I think, but I think Miles McBride has some potential in the fact that there's defense there. He really didn't play on the ball as much this season as people would have hoped because Quickley kind of took that over, like out the gate. Took that over when he got the opportunity to. But I think the first part of Miles McBride's game that's going to help this team on offense is his mid range. coming into when he was drafted, Miles McBride, I felt like had a really good mid-range game. Can stop on a dime and knock that shot down at 20 to 22 footer or whatever, knock that down with ease. And I think if he can do that in the offense next season, I think that's going to definitely help his game grow, get more confidence. He obviously needs the ball in order to do that, but I think that's definitely going to help this team out for next season. And Cam Reddish, to me, is another guy that just needs to take over. Like, we all know the tools that he has whenever he's on the floor and whenever he's locked in. He's probably the most skilled basketball player. I mean, pound for pound basketball player with ability on the team right now. I just need his mentality to kind of reach that level where RJ's is right now so he can take over. And I think that's the only thing that's really stopping those two guys from excelling for the next season.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's going to stop Miles McBride is playing time again. For real. Yeah, I'm just not seeing where the lane is for Miles McBride to play and get significant playing time next season. If the Knicks are intent on bringing in another guy at the point guard spot, who's he playing over? Let's just assume that Alec Burks is not here, so we don't have to worry about, being upset that Alec Burks is playing out of position. And you bring in, let's just say Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is starting. Alec Burks is, Emmanuel Quickley is backing him up. And if Derrick Rose is still there.
D Rose, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's say Derrick Rose ain't playing. You still got Quentin Grimes and Cam Reddish that can play at the 2 and the 3. I just don't see where there's room right now for Miles McBride.
I think if the Knicks go out and get another point guard, whether it be Brunson, Brogdon, whoever, I think Kemba, Rose, and Burks are going to be gone. If not, if the Knicks keep it the same, I think Kemba will be gone. I think Burks will probably be going in a different trade somewhere else. But then you'll have IQ, Rose, and then McBride there. And if Rose is not playing, then that's probably what he's going to get his minutes from.
But you got Cam Reddish and Quentin Grimes. So let's assume that Rose is gone. I don't think it's going to happen unless he's going to Chicago. It's the only place that I'm seeing Rose going if he gets traded or leaves the Knicks is to Chicago. But let's say it happens. He gets traded. He acts out. They waive him, whatever, and let him go to Chicago. Then you still got IQ, Quentin Grimes, Cam Reddish, Obi Toppin, and let's just say Jericho Sims coming off the bench. Right? I mean, who is Miles McBride playing over between Cam Reddish, Quentin Grimes, and Emmanuel Quickley? Who's he playing over?
He's got to wait for an injury. So,
yeah, he's got to wait for one of them guys to go down, which it'll probably be Cam Reddish. I don't want to say it like that, but it might be Cam. Based on history.
Oh, D Rose.
Well, in that scenario, D Rose wasn't there.
Oh yeah, so
right, but if D Rose is there,
which I think he will be.
And I think he will be too. If D Rose is there, now you got Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, Derrick Rose, Obi Toppin, probably Jericho Sims. Assuming that, let's say, Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel get moved, right, to bring in a point guard, because the Knicks can't sign anybody outright, nobody significant for significant money outright.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if they're going to bring in one of these guys, it's going to be through a trade. So now you still got Miles McBride and Cam Reddish trying to figure out a way to get into the rotation. Unless, at the start of training camp, Thibodeau sees one of these guys and says, this guy has to be on the floor. I think that would be Cam Reddish over Miles McBride.
Or you flip McBride and sweeten the deal and go get a point guard.
Well, that could happen.
He's that young player. That's like, got to include in the trade.
That could happen. I could see that happening too. Andy?
Yes, my question was from another, situation. Let's say we stick with the pick that we have in this draft and we take Isaiah's man, Ty Washington. Is Ty over Deuce? Because if he's going to be around the 11th, 12th pick, he even might go before Deuce in the rotation, poll.
Or be ahead of Deuce, right? And then you still don't know
be ahead of Deuce, right? So that way, Deuce is going to be a G League player, literally for basically probably another team to pick him up,
right?
Because
and
Yes, my problem with Deuce is because, like we said, we're going to give him an incomplete. But, on the defensive end, I'm cool with it. He saw that he can stick with the NBA guys. We didn't see that many minutes of him on being on the, first string point guards and stuff like that. But he showed us, and his numbers show that he's a baller in the G League, right? And he didn't show us that in the NBA. And I realized that the G League is not the NBA and stuff like that, but we didn't see that in his blood, that takeover mentality that he can, he scored a 3 and the next possession, he didn't even attempt to shoot, or he didn't even look at the hoop. So, I think in the G League, he's like that main guy that if he gets that ball, he's like literally the alpha, right? On the NBA, and I realized that it's not the same situation, stuff like that. But I really, at least when the minutes that he got, most of them in the garbage time, or when the game was decided, I would love for him to take over the game.
Yeah.
But we had Emmanuel Quickley, with the ball. So
yeah. Now somebody asked, and I hope, and this is not to knock. I'm not trying to knock Miles McBride with saying this, okay? But I hope that Cornerstone Kev is listening. Somebody asked, and he did play 40 games, but only 9.3 minutes. It just felt like it was. I just didn't feel like we got a big enough sample size of Miles McBride, to see him with significant minutes out there. Somebody asked what his shooting percentages are. He shot 29.6% from the field, and he shot 25% from 3 this season in the NBA.
Wow.
Yeah, but yes, I think he's more of a player that needs to be on the court.
Yeah.
To get comfortable with and then take those shots. That's why when he came in like garbage time, he took like 1 shot, 2 shots a game. So, he's one of those players that he got the Frank Ntilikina treatment though.
Yeah, and I also think you can't really use those numbers against him. I mean, I can think about someone from the outside. I'm not saying you are.
That's why it's incomplete. That's why he got it incomplete.
But if you look at game situations, him coming in at the end of the game, whether it's a blowout, the Knicks are up by 20 or they're down by 20, he's just trying to jack up shots just to make them.
And he didn't even do that, Josh. He didn't even do that because Quickley was taking those shots, stat padding.
Well.
Oh my God.
Shots fired, Andy. Shots fired.
I mean, he does give me Ntilikina. You say treatment. He gives me Ntilikina vibes in so many in so many ways. One of them is how much time we talk about him on a panel compared to how many minutes he gets, right? That was the same thing with Ntilikina.
The other thing, he's on my wall.
He's on your wall.
Right. Oh my gosh, I know, Andy. Right. I mean, look, he gets 9.3 minutes per. When you put it in perspective, and I know we can't hold these numbers against him, he averages 9.3 minutes per game, shoots 29.6% from the field, 25% from 3, 66.7% from the free throw line, and we're arguing about, we spend a lot of time arguing about Miles McBride. And it's not to say that he's a bad player. He's just a young player that's hopefully going to, grow and get better.
Right.
And get better, throughout his time in the league. But that's the reason why he's gotten incomplete, ladies and gentlemen, because you just didn't get to see him enough. Still, man, 25% or 29.6% from the field. But you know why? Here's one of the reasons why I think he shoots like that from the field. He doesn't have blazing speed to get to the basket. So he shoots a lot of mid-range shots. You know what I mean? And making those mid-range shots in the G League versus making them in the NBA are two different things. You know what I mean? You got to use a little bit more energy to get open in the NBA to take that shot. And so it's a little bit more difficult. And I think that's, one of the reasons why you see that percentage be 29.6%. You hardly ever see Deuce get to the cup off of breaking his defender down. So he's the kind of guard that's going to come off of a screen and then hopefully learn to create off of that screen. And, it takes time. I'm not mad at him, or upset about, his play or those shooting percentages. He's a young guy. He's going to, hopefully get his chance, to improve upon that. It's just going to be hard for him to get it on this team in the NBA unless some people go down. Or there's just trades to make room for him. And I don't think they've seen enough or seen the type of things from him to say, we got to make room for him to play. I don't think the Knicks have seen that as of yet. So, here we go. I don't know. What do you guys think? And then super chat. Thank you for the super chat from Adele Chapman. He said Rokas over Ty at the panel. Well, I mean, it seems like Rokas is probably going to stay overseas for a little bit longer, right? So, I don't think we're going to be seeing Rokas anytime soon. I don't think. But, ladies and gentlemen, those are our grades for the players. Took 2 episodes to get through it all. And then I want to do another episode where I take the grades from everybody, put it all together, and come up with one grade for the team. Now, when we look at doing that, the players' grades got to be weighted, right? Because, I can't say, okay, Julius Randle got a D- and Quentin Grimes got an A, and they're weighted the same.
That's true.
So, when I do the formula, I think I'm going to take maybe their usage percentage and use that to weight. I don't know if I can actually do their usage percentage because Quentin Grimes could have a 26% usage percentage but only plays 16 minutes a game or something like that. So I got.
It won't be that high. Not for you.
I'm just saying, like, I'm just, as an example of what their grade, how their grade is weighted into the grade of the team. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's by minutes that you develop that formula to weight their grade, but it has to be weighted. You know what I mean?
Or you can just put a D in the graphic.
All right, just put it in there. I can tell everybody I came up with a good formula.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It probably is somewhere around a D. I mean, but when you look at it, right? Your primary players, Julius Randle, a D-. What did Kemba Walker get? A D? A D for Kemba Walker, right? So you had a guy that came in as your starting point guard, starting power forward, both getting Ds. And then off the bench, one of your primary players, Derrick Rose, gets an incomplete. Your backup center, Nerlens Noel, gets an incomplete. Like, those are major players, 4 primary players in your rotation that either gave you really bad grades or were incomplete. You know what I mean? And that kind of tells you right there the story of your basketball team.
Yeah.
Yep. Tells you the story of your basketball team right there because, you needed those guys to be out there on the floor or to play well, and didn't happen. Didn't happen. So any final thought? Oh, you know what? Let me say this before I do that. 1, remember, ladies and gentlemen, we have the NBK draft party coming up June 23rd, right? Slated right now to be in Atlantic City. I don't think anything's going to change, but if it does, then, of course, we will let you know. But it's slated to be in Atlantic City. We're working everything out right now, so look forward to it. We got a lot of ideas that we're shooting around, but as soon as we get things hammered down, we'll let you know what those ideas are. But one is, a basketball game with maybe a 3-on-3 tournament. Like, we got some fun things that we're planning for that weekend. So make sure that you join us. Put your name on the list. There's a link in the description of the video. There's a link in the YouTube chat, pinned to the top of the YouTube chat, and I'm going to put it in there once again right now so that you can put your name on the list and be one of the first people to get contacted once the registration information is complete. All right? So please make sure that you put your name on that list. We want to make sure that we get you there. And then second, Tay234 in the chat. On one of the videos, he made a comment and asked about a 2K league. I would love to do the 2K league. I play 2K, but I don't play it like that. You know what I'm saying? But if anybody is interested in setting up a 2K team or league or whatever and having it streamed as, another thing that we can do throughout the summer, reach out to me. We can put together a team to get that done. All right? I'm putting my email in the chat, and if you're interested, just reach out to me through that email, and we can get that done. I think that'll be fun, be dope. All right, so I'm looking forward to hearing from Tay because he brought it up. Anyway, Andy, anything else you want to add? I'm gonna come around to the group.
Listen, next show is probably gonna be the keep 'em and dump 'em. That's gonna be also entertaining.
It's coming up.
That's gonna be fire also, as all of the shows and the episodes we have on this channel. I'm probably gonna shoot a short video for tomorrow, so Sim's gonna put it up. That's still a little bit of a secret, but it's gonna come on tomorrow probably. Listen up. Like Sim said before, the next season is over, but we got even more content for you guys, so join in, subscribe, hit that like button, ring that bell so we get the notifications. Join also Steph's channel. I'm watching. I basically be the first guy to comment, maybe not the first guy to watch it, but I'm watching it every time. I'm just waking up and I'm watching that show. So it's awesome.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, no doubt. Steph?
Yeah, I mean, the season is over. This is a different type of grind, and the good part about it is just being with you guys more. So it's pretty exciting where we're not just boxed into what happened last night's game. Like we get to talk about other things. So I'm excited about the draft. I'll definitely be there. Last year was a blast. Hopefully Josh can make it. I don't know about Andy from Poland, but see what you could do, Andy.
Right.
I'm looking forward to it. And I'm gonna drop my video probably tomorrow or Monday on just my extended takes on the coaching. It's pretty much the same thing we did here, but add a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to that, and I appreciate all y'all support.
All right, no doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your Uncle Fully, I almost forgot about it. Almost forgot about it. My bad.
No, Tim, real quick, I just want to say all hail the queen. Go check out Dope Soul Sports Talk. I mean, it's a phenomenal episode last night about the point guard position, IQ Brogdon or Brunson. Definitely check her out. She's doing a phenomenal job over there. So, Queen, great job.
Thank you. Listen, thank you for support. They showed up for me. I would have been there by myself.
Yeah, it was a good
trying
show,
to carry the show.
It was a good show. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. Please make sure you sign up, get your name on the list for the draft party. Email me if you're interested in, a 2K league or 2K team. See how we can get that popped off. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. Be peaceful.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place to tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench.